Hey guys, welcome to Scene to Scene, the series where I compare one scene in the TV show and the same scene in the books. Don't worry, I'll read it to you, and then I'll compare them and talk about what's the same, what's different, and why. Let's do it. Game of Thrones is up first.
Now comes the noble Razdal Moeraz of that ancient and honourable house, master of men and speaker to savages, to offer terms of peace. Noble lord, you are in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, queen of the Andals and the First Men, Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, breaker of chains and mother of dragons.
You may approach. Sit.
Will the noble lord take refreshment?
Ancient and glorious is Yunkai. Our empire was old before dragons stirred in old Valyria. Many an army has broken against our walls. You shall find no easy conquest here, Khaleesi.
Good. My Unsullied need practice. I was told to blood them early.
If blood is your desire, blood shall flow. But why? 'Tis true, you have committed savageries in Astapor, but the Yunkai are a forgiving and generous people. The wise masters of Yunkai have sent a gift for the Silver Queen. There is far more than this awaiting you on the deck of your ship.
My ship?
Yes, Khaleesi. As I said, we are a generous people. You shall have as many ships as you require.
And what do you ask in return?
All we ask is that you make use of these ships. Sail them back to Westeros where you belong and leave us to conduct our affairs in peace.
I have a gift for you as well. Your life.
My life.
And the lives of your wise masters, but I also want something in return. You will release every slave in Yunkai. Every man, woman, and child shall be given as much food, clothing, and property as they can carry as payment for their years of servitude. Reject this gift, and I shall show you no mercy.
You are mad. We are not Astapor or Karth. We are Yunkai. And we have powerful friends who would take great pleasure in destroying you. Those who survive, we shall enslave once more. Perhaps we'll make a slave of you as well. You swore me safe conduct.
I did. But my dragons made no promises, and you threatened their mother.
Take the gold.
My gold. You gave it to me, remember? And I shall put it to good use. You'd be wise to do the same with my gift to you. Now get out.
The Yunkish are a proud people. They will not bend.
What happens to things that don't bend? He said he had powerful friends. Who was he talking about?
I don't know.
Find out.
Alright, Now here's the same scene from A Song of Ice and Fire. The envoys from Yunkai arrived as the sun was going down. 50 men on magnificent black horses, and one on a great white camel. Their helms were twice as tall as their heads, so as not to crush the bizarre twists and towers and shapes of their oiled hair beneath. They dyed their linen skirts and tunics a deep yellow, and sewed copper discs to their cloaks. The man on the white camel named himself Grazden Mo Eraz. Lean and hard, he had a white smile such as Krasnus had worn, until Drogon burned off his face. His hair was drawn up in a unicorn's horn that jutted from his brow, and his tokar was fringed with golden Mirish lace. "Ancient and glorious is Yunkai, the Queen of Cities," he said when Dany welcomed him to her tent. "Our walls are strong, our nobles proud and fierce, our common folk without fear. Ours is the blood of ancient Gis, whose empire was old when Valyria was yet a squalling child. You were wise to sit and speak, Khaleesi. You shall find no easy conquest here. Good. My Unsullied will relish a bit of a fight." She looked to Grey Worm, who nodded. Grazdan shrugged expansively. "If blood is what you wish, let it flow. I am told you have freed your eunuchs. Freedom means as much to an Unsullied as a hat to a haddock." He smiled at Grey Worm. "But the eunuch might have been made of stone. Those who survive we shall enslave again, and use to retake Astapor from the rabble. We can make a slave of you as well. Do not doubt it. There are pleasure houses in Lys and Tyrosh where men would pay handsomely to bed the last Targaryen." "It is good to see you know who I am," said Dany mildly. "I pride myself on my knowledge of the savage, senseless West." Grazden spread his hands, a gesture of conciliation. "And yet, why should we speak thus harshly to one another? It is true that you committed savageries in Astapor, but we Yunkai are a most forgiving people. Your quarrel is not with us, your grace. Why squander your strength against our mighty walls, when you will need every man to regain your father's throne in far Westeros? Yunkai wishes you only well in that endeavor, and to prove the truth of that, I have brought you a gift." He clapped his hands, and 2 of his escort came forward bearing a heavy cedar chest, bound in bronze and gold. They set it at her feet. 50,000 golden marks, Grazdan said smoothly. "Yours, as a gesture of friendship from the wise masters of Yunkai. Gold given freely is better than plunder bought with blood, surely. So I say to you, Daenerys Targaryen, take this chest and go." Dany pushed open the lid of the chest with a small slippered foot. It was full of gold coins, just as the envoy said. She grabbed a handful and let them run through her fingers. They shone brightly as they tumbled and fell. New minted, most of them, stamped with a stepped pyramid on one face and the Harpy of Gis on the other. "Very pretty. I wonder how many chests like this I shall find when I take your city." He chuckled. "None, for that you shall never do. I have a gift for you as well." She slammed the chest shut. 3 days. On the morning of the 3rd day, send out your slaves. All of them. Every man, woman, and child shall be given a weapon, and as much food, clothing, coin, and goods as he or she can carry. These they shall be allowed to choose freely from among their master's possessions, as payment for their years of servitude. When all the slaves have departed, you will open your gates and allow my Unsullied to enter and search your city, to make certain none remain in bondage. If you do this, Yunkai will not be burned or plundered, and none of your people shall be molested. The wise masters will have the peace they desire, and will have proved themselves wise indeed. What say you?" "I say, you are mad." "Am I?" Dany shrugged and said, "Dracarys." The dragons answered. Rhaegal hissed and smoked. Viserion snapped, and Drogon spat swirling red-black flame. It touched the drape of Grazdan's tokar, and the silk caught in half a heartbeat. Golden marks spilled across the carpets as the envoy stumbled over the chest, shouting curses and beating at his arm, until Whitebeard flung a flagon of water over him to douse the flames. "You swore I would have safe conduct," the Yunkish envoy wailed. "Do all the Yunkai whine so over a singed tokar? I shall buy you a new one, if you deliver up your slaves within 3 days. Elsewise, Drogon shall give you a warmer kiss." She wrinkled her nose. You've soiled yourself. Take your gold and go, and see that the wise masters hear my message. Grazdan Moe-Raz pointed a finger. You shall rue this arrogance, whore. These little lizards will not keep you safe, I promise you. We will fill the air with arrows if they come within a league of Yunkai. Do you think it is so hard to kill a dragon? Harder than to kill a slaver. 3 days, Grazdan. Tell them. By the end of the 3rd day, I will be in Yunkai, whether you open your gates for me or no. Alright. Let's get the little differences out of the way. In the show, there's no white camel, no black horses. But I don't really care about that stuff very much. I want to get to the actual dilemmas of the scene, because the dilemmas are what constitute the themes, and the morals of the story, and all that good stuff that I like. In both the show and the books, Dany's got style. The scenes are mostly the same in a big picture kind of way. It goes like this. Dany comes to conquer Yunkai and liberate its slaves. Grazdan, an envoy of Yunkai, comes to speak with Dany with the agreement that he won't be harmed, and in the hopes that they can resolve things non-violently. They exchange some pointed words. The envoy offers her gold to fuck off. Dany refuses and offers peace on the condition that Yunkai frees its slaves and surrenders. The envoy refuses and calls her mad. The dragon gets aggressive and scares him. And that's pretty much the gist of it. In both the show and the books, there's a surface-level interpretation that goes like this. Dany is a badass good guy, and Grazdan is a cowardly bad guy. And that surface interpretation is, I would say, successfully hiding a more morally complex interpretation, in which, upon closer inspection, Dany is being kind of bad. That's the right dynamic that the scene needed to hit, so on a big picture front, I think they did an okay job with this scene. The biggest change is there's no dragon attack. Dany ordered Drogon to shoot fire at him, while he's under a peace banner. And that's supposed to be why she's the real bad guy in the scene. But they took it out. Maybe they thought it would have made her arc too obvious. The big dilemma of the scene was removed, and it was replaced with poor substitutes. Dany is brandishing her dragons a little bit, which is threatening and more than mildly unacceptable, but not remotely comparable to the Dracarys she ordered in the books. There's a possible dilemma when she takes the gold, but it's questionable whether or not that's even a dilemma, because he did say it was a gift. Even though gift is obviously pretense for bribe here, maybe we could say Dany got him fairly, on the grounds that his discretion to not call a bribe is either cowardice or misplaced with Daenerys. Now, Grazdan does make the same threat to Dany in the books. We'll make a slave of you as well. But in the books, the threat happens way earlier, during the verbal sparring match. Now we can see what the TV show did with it. They moved the threat closer to the dragon's response, in order to make the dragon's response seem justified. When originally, this line wasn't so much of a threat, as it was pre-fight trash talk. And then the show used that threat as Dany's justification for this weak loophole in the rules about safe conduct, saying, "Aha, I promised you safe conduct, but my dragons didn't." In the books, it's a scene in which Dany crosses the line of acceptable behavior, and has to walk it back by saying, "I'll buy you new clothes," perhaps realizing that Barristan doesn't approve of the burning, because Barristan contradicts Dany's orders by putting the fire out, and that Barristan might be having Mad King flashbacks. And in the show, it's a scene in which Dany comes close to the line, but upon a closer look, the things that seemed like dilemmas were not really dilemmas at all, and Dany hasn't crossed the line. Grazdan is obviously the unfavorite here, because we haven't met him, and he's a slave master. But I notice in the books that often Dany's enemies make at least one really good point that she overlooks. With Grazdan, I think the one good point he makes is that freedom means as much to an Unsullied as a hat to a haddock, which is a fish. The torturous training that the Unsullied endure is meant to condition them out of their desire for freedom, and into absolute obedience. The observation calls into question whether the freed Unsullied are staying with Dany because they care about her cause, or because they don't understand freedom, and don't have anywhere else to go. It puts a subtle damper on the narrative that Dany tells herself, that she's the benevolent liberator of the world, rather than, say, the naive terror of the region. Grazdan's point didn't make it into the show, but I think it would have been a simple and important inclusion. Well, those are some of my thoughts. But I try to remember that it's always easier to criticize a thing than to make a thing.
He's not kind.
Thanks for watching.